College football is without a doubt one of the most influential college sports in the United States. There are die-hard college football fans all across the country who would be willing to do anything just to watch some college football action. The energy, tradition, and fan bases are just some of the reasons as to why this sport is adored by so many people. However, no sport is written without a history of changes, controversies, and of course, conspiracy. Last week I uploaded part 1 to this series, the college football iceberg, and it blew up quite fast. So I'm glad you guys are enjoying this series. I've read a lot of comments giving feedback and pointing out details in my video, so thank you guys for all the support that you've given to this series. My goal is to complete this iceberg before the 2024 season kicks off. So if you want to give support to that goal, give this video a like and sub up to Squidtard Sports. Anyway, without further ado, let's kick off part 2 of the college football iceberg. Today we're going a little deeper into the iceberg. Many of these entries are topics that many die-hard college football fans are aware of, but casual fans might not be aware of, or have never heard of. So today let's take a deep dive into the world of college football. Triple option. Invented by Bill Yowman in the late 1960s, triple option is the name of a specific form of play from the option playbook, and is known as one of the more complex formations in college football. Normally, the option consists of the quarterback either handing it off to the running back or keeping the ball for himself through what is known as a fake and running around or through the defensive line. However, in the triple option, another addition is brought to the table in the form of a fullback, who is basically a larger, stronger running back. Under this form of offense, the quarterback has 3 different choices: keep the ball for himself, hand it off to the fullback, or give it to the tailback. The triple option is also formed within other plays. For example, there's the wishbone, the veer, and the I formation triple option. The style of offense is extremely complex for both sides of the football, and in some cases this has led to powerful offenses, such as the case of Nebraska in the 1990s and the coaching career of longtime coach Paul Johnson. However, this can also lead to dysfunctional offenses. The triple option requires a high amount of talented players who can fill the position in case there is an injury or any other unforeseen circumstance. Due to this, the triple option just fizzled out for a lot of teams that used it. However, teams such as Army, Navy, and Georgia Southern still use this form of offense as of today. Longhorn Network. The Longhorn Network is exactly as it sounds, a network built all around Texas Longhorn athletics, collaborating with Learfield, a multimedia rights agency, as well as ESPN. Speaking of ESPN, the Longhorn Network is pretty much a Texas Longhorn version of ESPN, streaming games, live events, and other content revolving around the Texas team. This network also features exclusive games, including at least 2 regular season football games, approximately 24 basketball games, over 60 baseball and softball games, and nearly all coverage from other sports. They even have their own sports show called Texas Game Day, which, as you would expect, is the Texas version of College Game Day. Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders is a former football player who played as a defensive back for the Florida State Seminoles between 1985 and 1988. He actually played for the football, baseball, and track team through his time at Florida State. As for his football accomplishments, he was a 2-time All-American cornerback, Jim Thorpe Award winner, and even claimed his own nickname known as Prime Time, given to him by Richard Fain of the Florida Gators. He played in both professional football and baseball, the former of which he won NFL Defensive Player of the Year in 1994. He also made many appearances in pop culture, including games, music, and TV shows. Sanders has also been involved in many controversies over the years, including marriage disputes and alleged assault allegations. As of currently, Deion Sanders is the head coach of the Colorado Buffaloes, and along with him are his 2 sons, defensive back Shiloh Sanders and quarterback Shedeur Sanders, both of which transferred from Jackson State in 2023, where Sanders was also the head coach of. Through his time at Colorado, they've picked up some major wins, beating number 17 TCU on the road. But along with these wins were more controversy about the way Deion Sanders runs the Colorado program. These controversies we'll speak about later. Jalen Watts Jackson. Jalen Watts Jackson is a defensive back who played for the Michigan State Spartans, and unlike any of the previous players we've talked about in this iceberg, whom of which had a collective legacy in their time as college football players, Jackson is primarily known for a specific legacy in college football history. On October 17, 2015, Mark D'Antonio, head coach of the 7th-ranked undefeated Michigan State Spartans, traveled to Ann Arbor to face the 5-1, 12th-ranked hated rival, Michigan. Going into the final quarter, Michigan State trailed Michigan 20-14. Going into the final 9 minutes of the game, the score was 23-21, with the Spartans still on the losing end. Chewing the clock and going down the field, Michigan State was left with a 4th and 19 in Michigan territory. Pressure from the Michigan line forced quarterback Connor Cook to throw an incompletion, turning the ball over on downs. Michigan would force Michigan State to use all 3 timeouts, and with 10 seconds to go, Michigan was left with a punt formation on 4th and 2. In a wild turn of events, however, the low snap on the punt caused punter Blake O'Neal to have, as Sean McDonough put it, trouble with the snap, setting the ball in the hands of, you guessed it, redshirt freshman Jalen Watts-Jackson, who ran the punt all the way back, winning the game for Michigan State in one of the most bizarre endings to a college football game. This win propelled the Spartans to wins against number 2 Ohio State and number 4 Iowa in the Big Ten Championship, driving Michigan State to the college football playoffs. As for Jalen Watts-Jackson, he would actually give up on football after the 2016 season to join the Air Force. No, not that one, the actual Air Force. While this wasn't the ending to be expected, he had a legacy that will be remembered by college football fans everywhere. Pac-12 After Dark. Pac-12 After Dark is the name of a show with the purpose of wrapping up the week, summarizing all of the games occurring within the Pac-12 conference, all within an hour. Now, despite the name of the show, Pac-12 After Dark is mostly known as a nickname given to Pac-12 games occurring late at night. Now, if you live in the Pacific, most of these late-night Pac-12 games don't last further than after midnight. However, in the case of football fans living on the East Coast, Pac-12 games last up until 3 a.m. As an Eastern timer myself, I can confirm that I have stayed up until 3 a.m. watching Colorado versus Stanford last season. Unfortunately, due to the Pac-12 conference being disbanded starting in 2024, Pac-12 games no longer exist. But it's more than likely that we'll still be seeing late-night football games. Gator Bait. Gator Bait is a well-known cheer for the Florida Gators football fans that fans perform both at home and away football games. Of course, every single team in college football has their own traditional cheers that they do during football games, but rarely do any of them fall into any controversy. However, this was not the case with the Gator Bait cheer. As of the middle of June of 2020, Kent Fuse, former president of the University of Florida, announced his intentions to put an end to the cheer at sporting events, citing alleged racist imagery associated with the phrase as the primary reason. As such, a change was made. Florida Athletics and the Gator Band discontinued the use of the cheer at games. Florida fans were divisive on the issue regarding the cheer, and regardless of the change, Florida fans still use this cheer at sporting events. Tomahawk Chop. The Tomahawk Chop is put into a similar bubble as the Gator Bait chant. It's one of the most popular sports chants in the nation. It is used with pro teams such as the Atlanta Braves and the Kansas City Chiefs, but is most well known in college football as used by the Florida State Seminoles. According to former Florida State University president, the Florida State University Marching Chiefs were the ones responsible for inventing the chant. Like Gator Bait, it's at the center of controversy due to a chant's Native American heritage, and because of this, many look at it as racist exaggerations of the heritage. As such, it's not endorsed by the university board. Nonetheless, it's still one of the most recognizable chants, and it's very difficult to be a college football fan and not know what the Tomahawk Chop is. r/college football. If you know what Reddit is, then you know what r/CFB stands for. It is a subreddit all around the purpose of college football content, letting all kinds of fans post their thoughts on football games and other events in the college football world. They also have a very opinionated Twitter account. Yep, that's it for the most part. Winsipedia. Winsipedia is a website that shares more than just a familiar name to Wikipedia. Winsipedia provides an up-to-date database on every college football team's status, rank, and matchup history over the course of a program's existence. For example, when pulling up the Clemson Tigers on this website, it lays out a set of stats, including all-time wins, Heisman winners, NFL draft picks, weeks in the AP poll, and many more. Through the website, you can also see every head-to-head matchup record over the course of history. It's through this website where you can figure out things such as Clemson's record against even the most obscure opponents. Even programs that are discontinued are on this chart. Winsipedia collects data every single year and looks at every single team in the FBS. It's a very useful website for those who want to compare records or trash talk about owning another team. The Big East. The Big East is a conference that competes in 10 men's sports and 12 women's sports, competing in basketball, field hockey, and soccer. Now, you're probably asking, what happened to football? Well, originally, the Big East was a conference in football that carried as many as 16 teams from 1979 through 2013. Throughout the conference's existence in football, they carried many teams, such as Louisville, Cincinnati, Miami, Virginia Tech, West Virginia, and Notre Dame, among many others. Many of these teams came and went out of the conference after less than a decade of being in the conference. From 2011 to 2013, many of the founding teams in the conference left to join other conferences, such as West Virginia to the Big 12 and Rutgers to the Big 10. And despite the chances at conference expansion through conferences such as the Conference USA, the damage was already too far done. As of 2013, the Big East would be deconstructed in football. However, the conference still lives on and in some cases dominates in other sports. Fansville. Fansville is a fictional town and an advertising campaign for the soft drink company Dr. Pepper that is usually shown during the college football season every year starting in 2018. Since its debut, it has been renewed and continued every year, seemingly following the storyline showing a heated rivalry between State and Tech. The commercials featured many different college football icons such as cameos, including former Ohio State running back Eddie George as the town's doctor, former coach Les Miles as a clerk, and with the changes in NIL starting in 2021, they used active players such as former Clemson quarterback DJ Uiagalelei and former Alabama quarterback Bryce Young. I'm a man, I'm 40. This quote is in reference to one of the most famous sports rants in sports history. In the 2007 college football season, starting the 2007 season, Oklahoma State Cowboys head coach Mike Gundy put quarterback Bobby Reed on the bench for Zach Robertson after only 2 games, leaving fans and staff surprised by the change. Sports columnist Jenny Carlson wrote an article regarding the quarterback situation at Oklahoma State, noting heavy suggestions such as the kid was scared, his mother was feeding him chicken, and he was going to transfer when he found out he had to compete for a starting job. Upon reading the article, Coach Gundy was disgusted by it, yelling to the press about how the article was garbage, where he also uttered one of the most notorious sports quotes in history.
Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40!
The rant quickly gained popularity, so much in fact that people forgot what the intended purpose of the rant was. As for Bobby Reed, he would transfer to Texas State after Zach Robinson was named the starter. Bear Bryant. Bear Bryant is known as one of the most influential head coaches of all time. He played for the Alabama Crimson Tide from 1933 to 1935 as a defensive end before becoming a lineman coach at Union University in Jackson, Tennessee. He stayed a lineman coach at several different teams before becoming the head coach of the Maryland Terrapins in 1945. He also coached at Kentucky and Texas A&M, winning an SEC championship for the Aggies before becoming the head coach of the Alabama Crimson Tide in 1958. Through his time at Alabama, he won 6 national championships, 13 SEC championships, and won Coach of the Year 3 times. He coached Alabama all the way up until his retirement in 1982, and soon after, and in January of 1983, Bear would pass on. Through his time at coach, he won an accolade of awards and is considered one of the greatest coaches of all time to this day. 5th year eligibility. 5th year eligibility is a reference to the redshirt rule in college football. College football players can technically spend a 5th year at the football team of their choice through redshirt. I'm not going to go into too much context on redshirting as I did that in earlier entries, but I will mention that there is more than one way to gain a 5th year of eligibility, as all players in 2020 were granted an extra year of eligibility due to the widespread outbreak of the disease known as COVID-19. 3-4 defense. 3-4 defense is a very common defensive alignment in college football used by many teams at the Power 5 level. The build consists of 3 linemen down and 4 linebackers behind them. It's often quoted as being a base defense, as teams that use this formation can easily audible into another formation before the ball is snapped. The formation also allows for linebackers to either step back in pass defense formation or to rush after the quarterback in what is known as a blitz. Often one of the linebackers is set up as what is known as a quarterback spy, which is disguised as a pass defending linebacker to watch for any running from the quarterback or a running play designed as a pass. A spy is very useful for dual threat quarterback offenses. 4-3 defense. Near identical to a 3-4 defense, with the main difference being rather than having 3 linemen up front and 4 linebackers in the back, there are 4 linemen in front and 3 linebackers behind. This is more commonly used on first and second downs, as running plays are easier to defend with more linemen in front. 12-team playoffs. The 12-team playoffs is a playoff system in college football which includes 12 teams. This system will be relevant starting in the 2024 college football season, as this is how the playoffs will be until at least 2026. Many of the factors that go into this playoff are things that I talked about in earlier entries, but the important notes for this playoff is that the first round matches take place in the home field of the highest seeded team. The second and semifinal rounds take place in alternating New Year's Six Bowl stadiums, and the national championship takes place in a previously decided stadium. When it comes to automatic bids, it will include the 5 highest ranked conference champions, including an automatic group of 5 conference champion along with the 7 other highest ranked teams. The top 4 teams will receive a first round bye. Texas is back. Texas is back is in reference to a common saying in the college football community regarding a team being back to relevance in the college football world. A lot of teams which were really good back in the 1980s and 1990s and have a strong fan base in college football fall into this category. However, this saying is most common with the Texas Longhorns. Every time Texas would pick up a win, Texas fans would say that Texas is back, and then Texas would follow up by losing a game. That's why the saying has become a major meme among college football fans. Texas is only one team to fall under this umbrella of sports memes, as other strong fan bases in college football, which have teams that have been down for a long time, deal with this same problem. Texas, ironically, won the Big 12 last season and made the college football playoffs. So in many cases, those who say Texas is back as a meme are now saying it as a matter of statement. Big Noon Kickoff. In college football, there are 3 prime slates of game times. In Eastern Time, these are noon kickoffs at 12 o'clock p.m., afternoon kickoffs at 3:30 p.m., and night kickoffs at 7:30 p.m. Big Noon Kickoff is in reference to, as you would expect, the noon slate of games. However, Big Noon Kickoff is actually the name of a show hosted every Saturday by Fox Sports. Just like College Game Day, it is a pregame show hosted by various analysts and features many former college football players. Hosted by Rob Stone, the show's purpose is to provide a more professional overview of the games of the week as compared to College Game Day, which is more free form. It covers a selection of games in the Big 10 and Big 12 conferences, as those 2 conferences have current broadcasting deals with Fox and Fox Sports. The U. The U is a specific nickname given to the Miami Hurricanes. Kind of like the Texas is back entry, it's often said by Miami fans whenever Miami wins a big game that the U is back. The U is also in reference to a 2009 documentary directed by Billy Corben about the Miami Hurricanes football program. The U gained a sequel in December of 2014, which went over Miami's rise of power in the 1990s, as well as the program's scandal that occurred in 2011. Both films were part of ESPN's 30 for 30 series. 8-team playoff. 8-team playoff is at this point only a what if. It was originally thought that before the inclusion of the 12-team playoff, that the college football playoff would extend to 8 teams rather than keeping the same 4-team system. Having the 1 seed play the 8 seed, 2 versus 7, 3 versus 6, and 4 versus 5. At this point, seeding and auto bids are only speculation, as if at this point in time, it's unlikely this will ever happen. Steve Spurrier. Stephen Orr Spurrier is the name of a former college football player and head coach. From 1964 through 1966, he played as the quarterback for the Florida Gators, where in 1966, he won the Heisman Trophy, Sporting News Player of the Year, along with many other accolades. He also played in the NFL for 10 seasons before joining Florida's coaching squad as a quarterback and wide receivers coach in 1978. Through his coaching period, he coached for Georgia Tech, Duke, and eventually became the head coach of the Florida Gators in 1990. Through his time at Florida, he won a national title in 1996, 6 SEC titles, and won SEC Coach of the Year 5 times. His career continued at the South Carolina Gamecocks from 2005 to 2015, where he won an Eastern Division title for the Gamecocks for the first time in school history and won SEC Coach of the Year 2 additional times. In 2021, Spurrier was inducted into the South Carolina Hall of Fame, and as of currently, Spurrier has frequently contributed to radio podcasts and sport talk shows on television. Fun fact, he currently has a sports bar at Celebration Point in Gainesville, Florida called Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. SEC Shorts. SEC Shorts is a media channel that makes videos every year writing parodies about the SEC. Run by Robert Clay and Josh Sneed, these videos are skits written as satire humor for college football fans written every week during the college football season. These videos poke fun at every single college football team in the SEC and more on, depending on the wins and losses of the week for SEC opponents. These also often introduce special guests as cameos in their videos, including internet personality Matt Mitchell, comedian Jermaine Funnyman Johnson, and well-known sports analyst Kirk Herbstreit. MACtion. MACtion in terms of definition is nearly identical to Pac-12 After Dark. MAC stands for the Mid-American Conference, a group of 5 conference in the Midwest. Because of the similar talent levels of all the teams in the MAC, it's very difficult to accurately depict who will win the football games of the conference in a week. These create many interesting matchups that are often more competitive than many Power 5 football games. This creates for some incredible college football action, or in this case, MACtion. Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly is a former football player and coach. He played as a defensive back for New Hampshire from 1981 through 1984 before becoming a defensive back coach for Columbia, an FCS team in 1990. He took many other coaching positions over the years, but one of his most well-known is his coaching career as the offensive coordinator and head coach of the Oregon Ducks. Chip Kelly was most well known for his take on the spread offense, which is meant to spread the defense out in order to create more big plays. In his first season as offensive coordinator in 2007, Oregon led the Pac-10 before it was renamed the Pac-12 in scoring and total offense with an astounding 467.54 yards per game, breaking the school record for most offensive yards in school history. This record was broken the following year, with Oregon amassing 484.8 yards per game. Because former coach Mike Bellotti was promoted to athletic director of the school, Kelly was promoted to head coach. From 2009 to 2011, Oregon won the Pac-12 every year and played in the 2011 BCS National Championship. Despite the success from 2007 to 2012, Kelly left Oregon for the NFL following an episode of sanctions put on Oregon by the NCAA due to alleged allegations that took place during Kelly's time there. After many years away from college football, he came back as the head coach of the UCLA Bruins in 2018. Kelly was not able to produce the same amount of success that he had at Oregon. He left UCLA in early 2024 to become the offensive coordinator for the Ohio State Buckeyes, where he currently resides. 2023 Conference Realignment. Though 2022 was when discussions first began of conference realignment, 2023 was when the gears really began to move in the world of college football. In 2022, it was announced that Texas and Oklahoma from the Big 12 would be moving to the SEC as early as 2024. The Big 10 proceeded to make the same move, bringing UCLA and USC from the Pac-12 over to the Big 10 as early as 2024. The Big 12 quickly made moves to expand their conference, adding members Cincinnati, Houston, BYU, and Central Florida into the conference for the 2023 season. In the summer of 2023, it was announced that Oregon and Washington would also be leaving the Pac-12 for the Big 10 in 2024. Following the news, Colorado announced their decision to return to the Big 12, with Arizona joining the move soon after. Arizona State and Utah also made the move soon after they did. In an attempt to expand, the ACC would add California and Stanford from the Pac-12 while also adding Southern Methodist University. Of the Pac-12 schools remaining, only Washington State and Oregon State were still in the conference. The Group of 5 conferences also had many expansions and relegations, adding FCS teams to their roster. Many programs in the ACC are heavily considering leaving the ACC. However, due to media contracts, this is easier said than done. Nothing in the conference has happened yet, but many say this could change sooner than later. The rest of the conference moves are expected to happen beginning in the 2024 season. I formation. The I formation is another common formation in college football. Becoming widespread in 1950 from Tom Nugent at Virginia Military Institute, this formation involves stacking the quarterback in front of the fullback and halfback. It is much more squeezed together as compared to a spread offense, which spreads the receivers outwards. This formation heavily relies on the tight end position, which is a player that can be used as an extra receiver or a blocker. The tight ends are on the outside right next to the offensive line and will be often used as an extra blocker or receiver. Like any other formation, there are many variations to the I formation. It's also a formation which uses 2 tight ends rather than having one like most other formations in college football. Josh Pate. Josh Pate is a well-known college football personality who covers college football throughout the entire year. Pate runs a YouTube and podcast show called The Late Kick, which multiple times in a week covers everything college football related from recruiting, games, and coaches. The show is run on 247 Sports. As of June 20th, 2024, the Columbus, Georgia native has gained 258,000 subscribers on YouTube, with an average of over 30,000 viewers on every live show. Whiteout or blackout. The whiteout is something most common with the Penn State Nittany Lions as a tradition that is performed every year during one of the major home games of the season. As the tradition sounds, every fan of Penn State comes dressed in white, setting up what looks like a complete sea of white in the stadium. Beginning in 2002 as a defense against Nebraska's sea of red, these whiteouts are usually used during major games against conference opponents. The whiteout would stick out in the world of college football after a major upset over Ohio State in 2005, rallied behind the second largest crowd in Penn State history. It was originally something only students did, until 2007 when the whiteout code would be extended to the entire stadium. The whiteout is also done by other teams, including BYU. The blackout is identical to this feat, with the only difference being instead of white being worn, everybody wears black. The feat isn't nearly as popular as the whiteout, but has been done by multiple teams like Kentucky, Texas Tech, and Georgia. Notre Dame's independency. Notre Dame is an interesting team when discussing postseason college football. Notre Dame is considered a team at the Power 4 level despite not being a Power 4 team. Notre Dame is an independent team in college football, meaning they do not play in a conference and do not have a conference schedule to abide by. There are 3 other schools that are independents like Notre Dame, these being Army West Point, Connecticut, and Massachusetts Amherst, or UMass, but none are as prominent as Notre Dame. Notre Dame has a list of rivals that they play frequently, such as USC, Michigan, Stanford, and Boston College. But none of these go to any conference record since Notre Dame isn't in a conference. On top of this, Notre Dame, regardless of their record, doesn't play in a conference championship, meaning the best they can do in a regular season is 12-0. The reason for their independence isn't exactly pinpointed, but many say it's because of TV deals or because it makes Notre Dame's schedule intentionally easier. Side note, there has been a year where Notre Dame did play in a conference, playing in the ACC in 2020. However, they were defeated by Clemson in the ACC Championship. Princeton. The Princeton Tigers are a college football team that currently plays as an FCS team and is often regarded as one of the founding fathers of college football. Their first game was played in 1869. Princeton, which at the time was called College of New Jersey, battled it out against the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. Princeton lost to Rutgers 6-4, where the rules were much different than where they were today, with the players kicking the ball akin to something like soccer. Princeton, from 1869 to 1950, has claimed 28 national titles, which, if true, means Princeton has the most national titles in college football history, beating Yale by 1 title. In 1955, Princeton joined the formation of the Ivy League, separating them from the national spotlight. Following the NCAA subdivision split of 1978, the Ivy League moved to the FCS level in 1982. As of recently, Princeton has achieved a moderate level of success in the Ivy League, winning 5 conference titles in the 21st century, including one in 2021. 4 verticals. 4 verticals is a play that is part of the shotgun formation. The overall purpose of the formation is to force a big play, as it sends 4 receivers running routes down the field, and the tailback, which is a wild card in the offense. The formation is all about one-on-one matchups. If a slow defensive back is matched up against a fast receiver in this formation, unless if there is a defender behind him, it's free real estate for a touchdown. In man coverage, this formation is a major success unless the quarterbacks are fast and reactive enough to keep up with the receiver. Against soft zone coverage, however, this style more than often fails, as there isn't an open route for the receiver to go unless the tailback finds a hole in the defense. This formation is often used as a way to cheese a win in the college football video games, especially on high overall teams. Jadeveon Clowney. Jadeveon Clowney is a linebacker who played for the South Carolina Gamecocks between 2011 through 2013, and is often spoken about as being one of the best linebackers in college football history. Clowney was the #1 player on every single board in the 2011 recruiting class, and on February 14th, 2011, he committed to South Carolina over Clemson, Alabama, LSU, and Florida State. Clowney started in all 12 games his freshman year, and in his career for the Gamecocks, he won SEC Defensive Player of the Year in 2012 and was first-team All-American in 2012 and 2013. He also earned the Ted Hendricks Award in 2012, going to the best defensive end. His most famous play came following a controversial first down call in the fourth quarter of the 2013 Outback Bowl against Michigan. Following the controversial call the following play, he shredded through the line of scrimmage, hitting Michigan running back Vincent Smith so hard that his helmet came off, as well as the ball slipping out of his hands. This play set South Carolina up for a touchdown, which went on to win them the game. Clowney was a #1 overall draft pick in the 2014 NFL Draft and is still currently playing. Clowney's jersey number 7 is currently retired at South Carolina. College football revamped. Before the announcement of EA College Football 25, there was College Football Revamped. It is a mod for the latest EA College Football game, NCAA Football 14. Released on January 1st, 2021, it added many modern features of college football which the original game lacked, including updated scoreboards, the college football playoff format, as well as adding Georgia Southern, Appalachian State, Coastal Carolina, and Charlotte. The game has received frequent updates ever since its release. Fun fact, some of the people who worked on this mod are actually developers of EA College Football 2025. Miracle at Jordan-Hare. On November 16, 2013, the 25th ranked Georgia Bulldogs faced off against the 7th ranked Auburn Tigers in Jordan-Hare in the 117th installment of the Deep South's oldest rivalry. Georgia shocked everyone as with 36 seconds left to go in the football game, they led over the Tigers 38-37. However, faced with a 4th and 18, Auburn quarterback Nick Marshall led what would be a much bigger shock. Upon throwing the football, the ball was tipped by Georgia safety Josh Harvey Clemens, falling right into the hands of sophomore wide receiver Ricardo Lewis in stride, who took the football the rest of the way for a 73-yard touchdown, winning the football game in one of the most shocking victories in modern college football history. This play would forever be known as the Miracle at Jordan-Hare. What's really baffling about this is that this play happened in the same year for the same team as an earlier entry, the Kick 6. Overtime rule change. Overtime in college football before the rule change went as follows. After a coin toss, you decide who goes first. Teams would exchange drives starting at the opponent's 25-yard line, scoring either a touchdown or a field goal. If the score was still tied by the end of the first overtime period, it would go into a second overtime, and starting on the third overtime, teams which scored a touchdown would be forced to go for a 2-point conversion instead of an extra point. This would be repeated until eventually someone would fail to score as the other team would win. The rule went through 2 changes starting in 2019. Firstly, the first overtime would go as normal. On the second and third overtime, teams would be forced to go for 2 after every touchdown. After the third overtime, teams would start their next possession on the 3-yard line, exchanging 2-point conversions until one team scored and one didn't. In 2021, this rule got changed again, with the third overtime also being part of the 2-point exchange. This is the current overtime setup, with no changes being discussed as of recently. The Blind Side. The Blind Side is a sports drama film written by John Lee Hancock in 2019, telling the supposed true story of Michael Orr, a defensive lineman who was stuck in foster care due to his mother's drug addiction. Michael was taken in and adopted by the Toy family, with Sandra Bullock playing as Leanne Toy. The story follows Michael as he goes through school and football while also being a highly rated prospect. The movie featured many college football cameos, including Nick Saban, Tommy Tuberville, Lou Holtz, and Philip Fulmer. The movie was a massive success in the box office, grossing $309 million and winning Sandra Bullock an accolade of awards. In August of 2023, Michael Orr filed a lawsuit against the Toy family, claiming he was never actually adopted by the family, but was instead a part of a conservatorship, which gave them legal authority to make the business deals for themselves while giving Orr nothing in return. This ended with the conservatorship being terminated in September 29th of 2023. Last Chance U. Last Chance U is an American documentary series produced by Netflix, which follows the story of college football programs across the country with players who have struggled to find any structure in life. These struggles include academic failures, trouble with the law, or mental blockades. The show tells the story of many players and what their time on the gridiron was like. The show had 5 seasons on Netflix and a spinoff focusing on basketball. Cowbells. The cowbell is one of the most well-known traditions of the SEC. Used by the Mississippi State Bulldogs, it was used as a noisemaker during college football games as early as the 1930s. In 1975, the SEC filed against the use of artificial noisemakers in games as the result of a direct complaint by Auburn head coach Shug Jordan. Several teams in the SEC protested against this rule, with Alabama attempting to purchase cowbells from Mississippi State before the Iron Bowl against Auburn. Despite declining the offer, this was not the only active protest from programs. It wasn't until the fall of 2010 that the ban on cowbells was finally lifted, following a compromise between 12 schools of the SEC. Cowbells have become a massive part of Mississippi State tradition, decorating the campus as well as homes of Mississippi State alumni. Mayo Bath. The Mayo Bath is one of the most abstract college football traditions in the modern era of college football. As it sounds, it is a Mayo Bath meant for the winner of the Duke's Mayo Bowl. Formerly named the Belk Bowl from 2011 to 2019, it wasn't until 2020 where it got this name. The bowl game's tie-ins feature an ACC team versus either a Big Ten team on even years or an SEC team on odd-numbered years. There are many baths in college football after wins, including a Gatorade bath for many team wins or a Cheez-It bath in the former Cheez-It Bowl. But the Mayo Bath is seen as one of the most odd and abstract of the few. Only 3 coaches have undergone a Mayo Bath, including South Carolina's Shane Beamer, Maryland's Mike Locksley, and West Virginia's Neil Brown. 2021 Cincinnati. The 2021 Cincinnati Bearcats football team is one of the most intriguing in modern college football history. Cincinnati was not a weak team by any means, coming off a 9-1 season and a Peach Bowl loss in 2020. However, it was unknown whether or not they could compete with the elite teams, as they were not a Power 5 team. Led by head coach Luke Fickell and quarterback Desmond Ridder, the team had many powerful weapons on their side, including cornerbacks Bear Bryant and Sauce Gardner, defensive lineman Curtis Brooks, and 3 first-team all-conference offensive linemen in the American Athletic Conference. The Bearcats rallied to an undefeated 12-0 regular season, beating teams such as number 9 Notre Dame, UCF, and SMU along the way. After an AAC championship win over number 21 Houston, Cincinnati sat at number 4 in the college football playoff poll, and to the surprise of many media members, Cincinnati was admitted into the college football playoffs as the number 4 seed, taking on number 1 Alabama. Though they lost 27-6, they put up over 200 yards of offense on the Crimson Tide. This remains the only group of 5 team to enter the college football playoffs. Ernie Davis. Ernie Davis was a football player who played as a halfback for the Syracuse Orange from 1959 through 1961. Davis excelled at many sports, including baseball, basketball, and football in grade school. He was requested by Jim Brown, a former Syracuse player, to commit to the Orange. He accepted the request, winning a national championship with the Orange in 1959, along with many other accolades, including unanimous All-American in 1961. He was selected first overall in the NFL draft by the Cleveland Browns, being paired with, ironically enough, Jim Brown. However, tragically, Davis was diagnosed with leukemia in the summer of 1962, and despite treatment, Davis would pass away on May 18, 1963. Davis had 2 commemorative statues, one of which stands on the campus of Syracuse at Hendricks Chapel, where the number 44 is retired for the Orange. There was also a modern picture published in 2008 named The Express, the Ernie Davis story. Low down, dirty, and some snitches. Prior to the matchup between the Tennessee Volunteers and Alabama Crimson Tide, called the third Saturday in October in 2007, an interview was performed with Alabama student Ivan Carney. Carney gave his unrestrained thoughts about the hated rivals on CBS 42, saying that they are, quote, low down, dirty, and some snitches. The rant from the student has become famous across Alabama fans, and it is mentioned yearly when talking about the third Saturday in October. Carney later said that the video gained that level of popularity because, quote, You can't fake that type of passion. Catholics versus Convicts. This is the nickname given to the 1988 matchup between the Notre Dame Fighting Irish and the Miami Hurricanes. The phrase was a t-shirt slogan created prior to the game by Joe Frederick, Michael Caponegro, and Pat Walsh. Before the 1988 season kicked off, 2 Miami players were arrested publicly with their scholarships taken away, spearheading the nickname. As for the game itself, Lou Holtz and the Fighting Irish won the game 31-30 following a failed 2-point conversion by Miami and head coach Jimmy Johnson. This was Miami's first loss since losing to Florida in 1985. The teams would go on at the end of the season winning the rest of their games, which ended with them number 2 and number 1 in the AP poll, giving Notre Dame a claimed national championship. There was also a 2016 ESPN 30 for 30 documentary with the same nickname, following the story of the football game in question. Stetson Bennett. Stetson Bennett is a former college football quarterback with one of the most interesting stories of any player in the modern era. Nicknamed the Mailman, Bennett started his career as a walk-on for the University of Georgia in 2017 before transferring to Jones County College in Mississippi in 2018. He threw for 1,840 yards in his season with Jones College before being admitted back into the Georgia Bulldogs roster in 2019, where he played as the backup quarterback for Jake Fromm. He would become the starter in 2020 after poor play from quarterback DeJuan Mathis in his first game of the season against Arkansas. Though JT Daniels took the starting job not long afterward, he would gain it back in his 5th season following an injury to Daniels in the first few weeks of the season. Bennett led Georgia to a 12-0 regular season record, and though they would lose to Alabama in the SEC championship, Bennett would get revenge in the College Football Playoff National Championship, winning Georgia their first national championship in 41 years. 2022 was an even better season for Stetson Bennett, as Georgia went 15-0, beating number 11 Oregon, number 1 Tennessee, number 14 LSU in the SEC championship, number 4 Ohio State in the College Football Playoff semifinal, and beating number 3 TCU in the most lopsided national championship in recent history, 65-7. Bennett was a 2022 Heisman finalist, a 2022 Manning Award winner, and a 2022 Burlsworth Trophy winner, and is seen as one of the most accomplished walk-ons in college football history. Second and 26. The 2018 National Championship featured 2 one-loss teams from the 2017 season, between the 12-1 Alabama Crimson Tide and the 13-1 SEC champion Georgia Bulldogs. These 2 teams were seen as 2 of the most loaded teams in college football with similar feats and disadvantages. The game itself was competitive down to the wire, with Georgia leading 13-0 in the first half, with Alabama making a comeback in the fourth quarter, with Alabama quarterback Tua Tagovailoa leading the Crimson Tide down the field to tie the game at 20 each with 3:49 left to go. Alabama regained possession, but an Andy Papanestos missed field goal sent the game into overtime. Georgia possessed the football first, being forced into a 3-and-out, and after a sack on Jake Fromm, Georgia made a 51-yard field goal. On Alabama's drive, it started with the sack by Georgia, resulting in a 16-yard loss, forcing a 2nd down and 26. On this play, Tua Tagovailoa hit receiver Devontae Smith in stride, scoring a touchdown, winning the national championship in walk-off fashion. This play, which ultimately decided the game, would be nicknamed 2nd and 26. And there we have it. That's part 2 of the Iceberg. Join us next week when I'll dive deeper into some of the more interesting points of college football. As usual, if you liked what you saw, make sure to give this video a like and subscribe to Squidtard Sports on YouTube. I appreciate all the feedback you guys give me, and of course, I'm no robot, so there's a chance or more that I missed something about a topic or got something wrong. And if I did, don't shy away, let me know in the comments. Anyway, thank you guys again for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.